content is brought to you by Kim Westland Incorporated, helping you create a vision for your life. In terms of what we were just talking about with individuality, what kind of bravery do you think it take to be an individual that really stands out in business? Because to be an individual means we have to go down a path that's not necessarily paved.
That is one of the scariest things you can do. And I have found that out. I wouldn't say the hard way. I think every business owner, or not even business, every person who does something that's out of the norm will experience that at some point. And there's a lot of trial and error involved. Like, for my friends and family who've been around me, technically my brand has started several years ago, and I've gone through logo change after logo change. I've gone through name change, several name changes. People sometimes are like, what do you even do? Like, there's just been so many things, and it's because it's been a journey of me trying to figure out and come back to the basics of who am I? What am I ultimately trying to say? What am I ultimately trying to do for people? And what am I ultimately trying to offer people? And it's so funny because I'm just like overcomplicating it. And I finally am like, faith, art, bam. But because when I don't have a ton of models like that even locally, that is hard sometimes, because for me, the biggest thing I've struggled with is like, okay, where's the demand? Is there demand? Is this something people even want? What is the return on this going to be? Like, it's very scary when you start something that you don't see a ton of people doing. When you finally push through that because you see vision in it, it's scary to think, okay, you know what? People may not see the value that I see in it.
Yeah.
But
and also, is it popular? Sometimes what we as individuals step out to do doesn't appear to be the popular decision.
Yeah.
That takes bravery to me. That
Absolutely
takes facing your fears head on, face on.
You cannot be, I truly believe you cannot be afraid of rejection and start a brand or a business, because you're going to hear a lot of no's before you get a yes.
Especially if it's not popular or following a trend.
And not necessarily, like, there's that, but it's also, you don't know what the response is going to be from people when you do something so new. And you will get people who don't see the value in it. You will get people who look at you like, what the heck are you doing? Like, that's not a real job. That's not I'm pretty sure every entrepreneur has probably heard somebody tell them that at some point in their life. But it's a day by day process to figure out what's working, what's not, what do we need to do more of. And every single entrepreneur that I've talked to is so innovative and just thinks so broadly. And none of them, I have not met one entrepreneur that started it to be like, I want light work and easy hours. No. It's not why people start this stuff. What I love, though, is when you talk with entrepreneurs, they're so passionate about what they do, and their bar for success, they were like, a business is obviously meant to make money, but they don't do it for that. Because if you did what you do just for money, there are so many other jobs out there that you could get a quick paycheck so much faster and easier than entrepreneurship. But every person I've talked to that's an entrepreneur is so passionate about wanting to see change in a certain area, wanting to bring what they have to offer to people. And most of them that I've talked to are like, you know what, this may flop, but I wanted to try this because I think bigger than where I'm at right now. And that is something.
And that passion is what will drive people to when the hard days come. And that's I go back to having the right vision and
Yeah.
connecting with your purpose, because when the hard days, not if, when
Yeah.
they show up, then that passion to know, no, this is really what I know I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm meant to share with the world. It
Yeah.
will sustain you in those tough times, because those are hard days when we get
Yeah.
inside our heads and we start doubting,
Yeah.
and all of our fears are knocking on the door, and we flop, we trip and fall, and it looks like we've failed in a big way, or we've lost some money,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. That passion helps us to pick ourselves back up and to
Mm-hmm.
understand, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm meant to do. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
difference maker, right?
Yeah. Well, and I've found that a lot of trends, not all, but a lot of trends are very status quo. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But when you are an entrepreneur, or you're trying to do something, even not in the business realm, you're trying to do something that's not the norm, and a trend, like on social media, it's millions of people recreating or sharing or liking. When you limit yourself, I find it's very easy to get into the mindset with trends of everybody's doing it. This is what I
Mm.
should be doing. And like I said at the beginning, there's a way to utilize that to your advantage, but I feel like it's the quiet trap of trends. They can actually be incredibly stifling and actually further perpetuate fear. Because if what you're doing doesn't look exactly like what a trend is portraying, then what do you have left, right? I'm a firm believer. There are people whose brands are solely social media. That's awesome. Like, that's great. You're utilizing a fantastic tool. But for me, that's not what I want. I want a brand that stands not just in social media, and it doesn't just stand in a trend or what's fun and trendy. It stands alone outside of the social media world, that it can last. Because I mean, trends come and go so fast. Like I said earlier, literally there are people in my generation that are telling me about a trend. I'm like, I haven't even heard of that yet. And I'm on social
Yeah.
media quite a lot, for business, for personal, and I'm like, what? I didn't even hear of that. And apparently it's like this massive trend. Like, it's crazy to try and keep up with that.
Well, when you say you're crafting a brand that stands outside of social media, I think that's something that would be very foundational in building any brand,
Yeah.
in terms of, does it make sense to who you are?
Yep.
Does your brand connect with you and your purpose?
Yeah.
And can you stand with that brand when no one else is looking?
Yeah.
That's what that says to me, is
Yeah.
you don't need social media to solidify
No.
the reasoning or the existence of it.
Yeah.
You need you to say, yes, this is what I believe in. This is
Yeah.
the brand that I'm willing to put it all out there for, because I know this is what I should be doing. And this is
Yeah.
what I want to share with the world, not because of the trends and the likes and what people say is cool. If
Yeah.
I think this is it for me, that should be enough. So I think if you can say that about your brand, first
Yeah.
of all, then introducing it to the world and on social media, then what comes. But
Yeah.
you know, this is what you should be doing, and that's the measure.
Absolutely. Well, and like I said, I personally love a blend of utilizing social media. It's a great tool. I tend to be on the extreme end of things. I've gone days where I'm like, social media only. I'm just like, I'm gonna use it like crazy. It's just going to be like social media existing. Everything's going to be digital. And then I have days where I'm like, I literally hate social media. I want to delete everything and just go completely off the grid. And I'm finding a happy medium is amazing. And for example, like a trend in the business world and entrepreneurship world is courses. That's a big one, digital courses. I feel like everyone and their mom is putting out a digital course. And
including me. Yes,
and
your mom.
listen, I absolutely love digital courses. I love that that's a thing. I think it's a phenomenal thing if it fits for you. It comes down to, are you creating something of value? There are
Yeah.
plenty of courses that I'm like, that is absolutely priceless information. That's phenomenal. Course needs to be made. And then I've seen a lot of courses that I'm like, why was that made into a course? Why would you charge for that? No one, like, that's
Yeah, it
not
doesn't fit just
something, it doesn't
everybody.
fit. But because it's such a thing right now, so many people are hopping on it because they feel like, I have to put out a course. I have to.
Yeah.
I almost did that, and I'm like, listen, I could do that for certain things, but I'm not in a phase of the teaching mode. I'm not there yet. I'm not in the
Yeah, it could just be a timing issue as well.
it just doesn't fit me at this point in time. What I would do is put out more of a course that's more create alongside me. Let's discuss what I am good at, but let's kind of foster a community versus more of an educational thing. Whereas, like, we've talked about what you're working on behind the scenes, you have so much to offer and educate and teach people. It fits for you. And that's something that you could absolutely hop on. That for me, I would have to tweak it and modify it to make it feel like me. But
Exactly. And
that's
I
right. Yeah.
Yes, and I was going to say too, I grew up in a generation where we did not have internet and
Yes.
social media. So my perspective is a little bit different overall because we now live in this world where
Yeah.
social media and internet online world is just a part of everything we do. But I have the perspective of both. So when I think of building a business in the world of not having social media, this lands a little bit easier for me in some ways to think about, well, who am I when there is no internet? Who am I day to day when it's just me, my family, my friends, my colleagues, my work world? Like, who am I?
Yeah.
And so I think today, and I'm not sure if you want to, well, I'd like for you to weigh in on that from your perspective, because you grew up with the internet in play all the time. So for you, this is just almost an ingrained part of your existence,
Yeah.
right? How you do life. So does that make a difference when you think about your own business and does it seem like, I don't know. I don't know what question I'm trying to ask here, but what's your perspective
Well,
on that?
my thing is, and what I find is, there's actually a lot of people in my generation craving um, social media free experiences and
I think that will
things.
become a thing too.
Well, it has in a lot of ways already in my generation, not entirely. Social media, I would argue, is still the dominant force in people's life, but that's where I'm kind of looking at this and going, I'm shifting my brand in a way where there's a healthy balance of things that are outside of social media and
Mhm.
inside social media. Like, I love, love, love the convenience of digital resources, right? Whether that's an
Yeah.
online membership, a community, things. I'm working on a big project right now that I'm looking to keep fairly digital. But what I love, I'm also trying to balance that out with in-person events, experiences, community that's in person, physical products, not just digital. Actually going to local places and discussing in the arts community, like putting together events that exist outside of social media. Well, I've started a few in-person Bible studies. And the one big piece of feedback that I've gotten so far, all people my age, the one big thing that people have said is, it is so nice to actually be in person talking.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how much deeper we can connect when we
Mhm.
are in person talking. versus
Yeah.
it's great to chat online. It's a wonderful tool, but I find if it's too far one way or the other, it like I said, the times where I've tried to completely get rid of digital, it's been extremely hard for anybody to even see the brand, see what I'm
Yeah.
doing. So
Yeah.
I find having
Exactly.
that blend of the two is really, really key. But I do find I crave more offline than online.
Yeah.
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 Not just from myself, but from other brands.
Okay. Finally, what does it take, do you think, to build a brand that lasts these days? And I'm asking somebody who is in a younger generation. What are your Gen Z, right?
Yes. I always
I
laugh
have to
because
ask again.
I'm right on the cusp of millennial and Gen Z. So I'm right in those few years that's like I could be considered a young millennial or an old Gen Z. So,
Okay. So I don't
yes.
even know if this is a fair question. Do you even think about what does it take to build a brand that lasts? Because I find this is again from my generation. I'm looking at your generation and everybody builds something, dumps it, goes on to the next thing. It's kind of this nobody has longevity in
Yep.
mind that I can see as, as a general comment. I'm sure some do, but not many.
No,
So
I would
what
agree with that.
what do you think about building a brand that lasts, or does that even occur to you?
I think it's essential. I think my generation, if there's one thing I could like encourage, please do more of that. Please do not that's where think outside of trends. You can absolutely utilize them, but it's so refreshing to see somebody in Gen Z specifically or millennials even build something that isn't just dependent and reliant on social media, because there are people success often comes and goes, but even more so in social media because of the rapid pace of things changing all the time.
Mhm.
I find it's okay to use that, but it depends on what your end goal is. If you're looking to build a brand that lasts, and this is coming from somebody who's in the process of that, but I find I have to shift my thinking beyond social media. There's a way to
Yep.
use it that'll help you, but if your end all be all is what social media can offer you, you're going to be completely limited
Well, and
because
even when you think about a brand lasting,
yeah,
that's a complete opposite thought
yeah,
from a brand or that's trending or
yeah,
a brand that's on trend,
yeah,
right? Because I mean, your message could be
yeah,
maintained and all of that, but I think it gets harder and harder when you're
yeah,
chasing the trends to build a brand that's solid
yeah.
and has a
Well,
message that lasts.
and the other thing that I would say is hone in on your skills and actually develop value as a business owner, because there are a lot of brands that I'm like, I'm getting very little for what I'm paying for, or the value or the quality isn't there. I feel like there's something with
Right.
your generation and even baby boomers that I really admire is the level of craftsmanship that goes into not just products, but just the level of thought and intentionality and resourcefulness that's had to go into creating things and creating brands. I mean, most of the brands that my generation loves were started by baby boomers or Gen X because, hey, fantastic quality. And a lot of the brands that my generation starts are like here today, gone tomorrow. I feel if it's dependent on social media, if your brand lives and dies with social media, you're not going to have something that's going to last 30, 40, 50 years. If that's not your goal, that's fine. But if you are looking to build something that is going to last that kind of span of time, use it as a tool, but do not
That's
limit
the key
yourself to
word.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the key word is a tool. And you've mentioned that numerous times. And I know I've certainly mentioned using things like social media as a tool, not as
Yeah.
the baseline or the reason for existence or the driver
Yeah.
of the decisions being made in business. So that's a really important distinction. So maybe a good
Yeah.
question today for somebody listening is social media a tool in your
Yeah.
toolbox, or is it the driver of how you make decisions,
Yeah.
algorithms, trends, like we said, the audio?
Yeah.
If that's the case, I think you're risking a lot by
Well,
having your brand
yeah.
not stand out in the long run, or you even being maybe getting off. You could have started with a strong foundation and maybe getting off into
Yeah.
a few degrees off course, and now you find yourself somewhere you didn't plan on being.
Yeah. Well, I would even say too, coming back to, I guess this would be considered, I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I guess this would be considered to be an old school thing at this point in time. I hear a lot of business owners talk about the revolutionary side of social media and what's latest and greatest and all these different tools and all that. And it's great. But when I talk to them about what are you actually offering people, nobody can answer that. And I feel like the essence and the best thing to do to create a substantial brand that can last is coming back to the basics of what am I offering people, and is what I'm offering quality? How do I hone in on skills? I feel like with my generation, this is one of the greatest things that's being lost because it's so easy to just go on social media and put out whatever you want, is actually developing skill in a craft and that level of excellence in craftsmanship and that quality in craftsmanship. I feel like that's such an outdated thing that nobody talks about is
Mm,
is your business, how well are you providing value, genuine value for what you're offering people? That's for whatever reason, that's something that your generation and the generation above you would ask constantly. How can we source the best quality? How can we
yeah,
actually get good quality into people's hands, and people stick by those companies for years and those brands for
yeah,
years because there's a level of integrity that goes with that. Whereas when you're trying to just hop on a trend, there's not time because it's so fast. Most people don't have time to go through, okay, let's do some market research. Let's actually take the time to build something that can stand sturdy and strong and build foundation up. What's happening is you've got all these fast, that's where fast fashion comes from. That's where all these just here today gone tomorrow fluff brands are popping up because, oh, that's what's popular right now. Okay, let's create an entire brand surrounding that. And because it's so quick, quality control is lacking. You got people cutting
yeah.
corners in a ton of areas, and it's just it's sad to me. I think I can't be the only one who's craving an actual solid, regardless of what's going on, regardless of what's trending right now, this is my brand, this is what we stand for, this is what we're offering you.
Yeah.
We can evolve with times, but we're not just jumping on, our brand is not dependent on what's trending right now.
Well, and we can learn from each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your generation, my generation, and generations in between can learn from each other. And I think that's the beauty of this, is to understand here, yeah, you're right. The quality aspect is different from my generation into where yours is. And so, but I think the beauty in all of this is that we can learn from each other, and we can glean wisdom and knowledge and understanding from different generations when it comes to things like this. My generation doesn't understand as much in depth about trends. I mean, I understand some things, but not on the level that you do. And so I can learn some things, I can utilize some things as tools, but my generation can maybe lend some wisdom in terms of, you're right, the quality, the longevity, the different aspects of maybe a broader a view in which to work. So I just want to thank you, Jada, for jumping on here and discussing trends and creativity and bravery to be an individual in business and in the world.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, I find it an important conversation because
Yeah.
there are business owners out there, and they're the ones I gravitate to, who and not just business owners but content creators. There's a lot of people out there who are just out here doing their thing, and I love it. And those are the people I typically gravitate to because that's the kind of thing I crave and I thoroughly enjoy. And I think it's important for people to know that it sounds so cliche, but like that whole phrase is "be you" because everyone else is taken.
But are they actually doing that? That's the question. Right?
It's cliche, right?
Trending. You can have trending quotes and sayings and things like that. But I find sometimes just because you're saying it doesn't mean you're actually doing it.
Well, that's true. I just feel like with just the things about you that make you unique and different, and just because you don't see that in a certain trend, that's usually what's very attractive to people. And I find the big thing that I would probably end off with is just mindset. I find if you have a more innovative leader mindset, and I encourage people to, if you don't feel you have that, there are ways to adopt that. But when you think outside the box and you think, okay, why do I need to follow this person? Why can't I just be myself? Why can't I start something, right? I think as human beings, we have such a pack mentality where if we don't see somebody else doing it, we're like, I can't do that. Like, how often do we say to our friends, oh, well, what are you wearing to that party? Because I don't want to look like the odd person out. Right? Human beings are just designed that way. We're wired that way. But when we kind of push through that and go, okay, what can I do that stays true to me? And thinking as a leader and going, okay, you know what? I'm not just a follower. I'm not just going to follow what everyone else is doing blindly. How can I start something? How can I actually take what I'm passionate about and bring change to people? It's just, it's a matter of investing in yourself, investing some time into figuring out who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what you're passionate about, and living your life that way. It's a lot more fun.
I couldn't agree more, Jada. So thank you so much for your insights today. We're going to have links on how to contact you and a little more about your business in the description. And of course, thank you to all of you for tuning in. See you next time.